All right, let's look at simplifying complex fractions. A complex fraction is basically a fraction over a fraction. So we need to simplify this and make it a single fraction. So with division, you're going to flip and multiply, but we can't do that until we get a common denominator down here. So we can't flip until we get a common denominator. And so let's work on that. All right, so we're going to leave the 2 alone. All right, so common denominator, it's xy. So the 1's going to need a y, and this one over the y is going to need an x. So now we're ready. We can flip. So it's going to be 2 times xy over y minus x. Now here we can't factor anything, but now we can multiply together. So our final answer is going to be 2xy over y minus x. All right, here I'm going to have to get a common denominator for the top and the bottom. 2 separate fractions. And then I'm going to flip and multiply. All right, so on my top, my common denominator is going to be 6. So the x doesn't need anything, but this x needs a 2. So minus 2x. On the denominator, my common denominator is a 10. So this x is going to need a 2. And the 7 doesn't need anything. All right, now I can flip and multiply. All right, combine these. So x minus 2x is negative x over 6 times 10 over 2x minus 7. All right, 10 and 6 reduced by 2, so I get 3 and 5. Can't factor 2x minus 7, that's a linear factor, so now I can multiply and get 5x, negative 5x over 3 times 2x minus 7. All right, I can leave my answer like that, or I can distribute my 3. So 6x minus 21. So either one of these are acceptable answers. All right, so my numerator is okay. It's already got a common denominator. There's only one fraction up there, but my denominator, I've got to get a common denominator. All these denominators. Okay, so it's going to be x times x minus 2, each different factor. So the 5 is going to need an x minus 2, plus the 1 is going to need an x. All right, now I can flip and multiply and clean up. So times x minus 2. Don't multiply those together yet. All right, on the bottom, I need to distribute my 5 plus 1x. All right, let's start cleaning up before we see if we can simplify anything. Leave it factored. The denominator, 5x and 1x makes 6x minus 10. All right, I don't think it'll do me any good, but let's see. I can get my numerators together. My denominator is going to be x minus 2. Oh, there's a common factor. Times, let's pull a 2 out of this. Gives me 3x minus 5. All right, so my only common factor is my x minus 2's. So what's left? I got 7x on the top. On the bottom, I have 2 times 3x minus 5. Or I can multiply that 2 back in and get 6x minus 10. All right, common denominator on the top, common denominator on the bottom. Think about this as being over 1, like that. All right, so for my numerator, my common denominator is x. So I don't need anything with a 2, but the 4 needs an x, so minus 4x. On the bottom, still got a common denominator of x. My 2 doesn't need anything, but my 3 needs an x. All right, now I can flip and multiply. So flip 2x plus 3. Well, there's a common factor of x, so that's going to leave me 2 minus 4x over 2 plus 3x. All right, your tempted to cross out those 2's, but don't. Okay, it's wrong every time. It doesn't work with numbers. It doesn't work with math or variables. So that's the best I can do on that one. All right, just stepping it up a little bit. All right, they're already a fraction, the numerator, fraction, the denominator, so I could go ahead and flip. I'm going to start factoring as I go, so everything needs to get factored. So I'm going to pull out a 6 in my first term, an 8x, I'm going to flip the bottom and pull out a 4x. All right, and this I need to rewrite. So I'm going to make that negative 3x plus 3, because everything else is in standard form. All right, I'm still cleaning. I can factor this again. Get x plus 1, x minus 1. My denominator I can't do anything with, but I see I've got a common factor now. All right, I'm going to factor everything before I start pulling anything out or getting rid of anything. All right, here I need to pull out a negative 3. All right, let's start crossing out common factors. I have an x plus 1, numerator and denominator. I have an x minus 1. All right, let's see what I have left, and I'll see if I'm done cleaning. All right, 6 times 4x gives me 24x, x plus 1. The denominator, I've got 8x and negative 3, so it gives me a negative 24x. All right, I can divide negative 24x into positive 24x and get a negative 1. And then distribute that negative. So here's my final answer. So this unit is being really comfortable with your factoring. Great practice. All right, one more. All right, got a common factor or fractions, numerator and denominator, so I can flip as I go. All right, this is a sum of cubes. So that's going to factor to x plus 5, x squared, opposite multiply, square the 5. On the bottom, it's not in standard form, so I'm going to rewrite it in standard form. I'll come back and factor that in a minute. All right, I'm going to flip and multiply. Here I see that I can pull out a 2x. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So 2x leaves me with x squared minus 5x plus 25. Oh, look at that. I got a common factor with that trinomial. I know I'm going to get rid of that. If you like to, you could go ahead and simplify that to make the problem a little bit easier. Less things to write down. All right, here, I'm going to have to factor out a negative 1, which makes it x squared minus 25. All right, so now when I go to factor this, all right, on top, what am I left with? I'm left with x plus 5, negative 1. This I can factor to x plus 5, x minus 5, times 8x to the 4th, 2x. All right, common factor. I have my x plus 5's. All right, I also see that I can divide 2x into 8x squared. All right, so let's start cleaning up. So 2 goes into 8 4 times. X to the 4th divided by x to the 1st gives me x to the 3rd, all in the numerator. In the denominator, however, I'm left with negative 1 x minus 5. All right, we never leave a negative in the denominator, so we can divide negative 1 into positive 4 and get negative 4x to the 3rd over x minus 5. And that's my answer.